without further ado, I will just introduce our fantastic trainer and speaker today. So we have Anna Marsden with us. So Anna's got over 2 decades of experience supporting people enhancing their communications. And I know Anna's really interested in sharing a deeper understanding of like how people think, who they are, how they behave, and how that influences their communication. So looking at that at a really deep level and what all that means in terms of the lives that we all lead and how we communicate with each other. So Anna supports people with professional services firms to better communicate and deliver. And also Anna lives with her wife, who is also called Anna, and her dog, who isn't called Anna. That dog's called Ralph in Cambridge. So yeah, be great for you to take the reins now, Anna. Welcome and thanks for being with us.
Great, thank you, Matt. Thanks for the intro. I am Anna, one of 2, and I'm here this morning to talk about, we can talk about sauces. My favourite is bread. I'll put that out there right now. Bread sauce with a bit of chicken and spuds. No, Tina's got an opinion about that. All right. We're going to be looking at diversity of thinking, and I want to tell you a little story about how my wife and I started our business, survived working together for 10 years, are still married. How did we do that? And what a bit of self-awareness and some psychometric tools helped us navigate and understand in our journey when we were building the business and growing the business. So for those of you who like to see an agenda, what we're doing, so that you've got an idea of when we'll get out of here, you will get out of here alive, don't worry. What we're going to be covering is something like this. We'll be looking at understanding differences and diversity of thinking and what that potentially might mean in terms of impact, appreciating when other people have different behaviours, so not just thinking but different behaviours, and then we're going to do a little exercise to start us off about understanding what our own preferences are and what that feels like when we're acting outside of our preference. So that's kind of what we've got scheduled in for this morning. I do have a couple of breakout sessions for us to do, which should be quite fast and furious and fun. But what I wanted to start off with was a bit of a story, and I thought this would give you a good segue into why am I sitting here talking to you this morning. So about 11 years ago, this is me and Anna, my wife. We are a gay trope. 11 years ago, my wife and I wanted to emigrate to Canada. So we're in our early 30s, and we wanted an adventure. 3 months into that adventure, we had our cats in tow. We'd taken them. We were headed to the Canadian mountains. We'd moved. We'd left London. We were there. Within the first 3 months, we'd received an email. And that email was from the government saying, thank you for your application. That's taken a year and over thousands of pounds to put through. We're in an oversubscribed category. We have too many skilled workers applying for these visas. You have to try again. We were already there. We were already in Canada with the cats, we already made the move. So after this year of application, the countless appointments, the tests for English, whether I could speak Canadian English or not, fingerprinting, criminal records, criminal checks, we'd failed. We'd absolutely failed. So that was the first kind of, can anyone hear my sound okay? Is that me or is it someone else? Yeah, I'm getting a bit of feedback. So we'd failed at the first hurdle. So we decided that we would pay the Canadian government back and spend all our savings living in the mountains, learning to properly ski and snowboard and downhill bike. Don't ever do it unless you want new scars over your body. But that failure allowed us to realise we'd made the move for a reason. What was that reason? What did we want? What were we kind of searching for? We wanted a new challenge. It wasn't necessarily the new country. We wanted a change, but we didn't necessarily need an entire different landscape, although the mountains were fabulous. So that helped us develop the idea that we wanted to start our own business. So we started our lovely Luminescence Communications, which was our business, and didn't necessarily give it too much thought about, you know, what people say, don't work with your partners and your spouses and your best friends. No, we jumped straight in. We'd been together for a long while, so we should have known better. We'd already got our CP, which is that little picture there, my wife laughing at me, which hasn't necessarily changed. You can make your mind up with this next picture that was taken 10 years later in exactly the same space. There's a bit of a power shift there. Can you see that? So over the past 10 years, we were already married. We'd had a civil partnership. We are that gay trope. We are both called Anna. And we were really lucky to know lots of great professionals in our lives that worked in HR, who worked in big organizations, and they were telling us how brave we were setting up our new business together, being married. Wow, how brilliant's that? And you must really, really, really get on. And we're thinking, this is really hard. This is really difficult. So we had a friend that worked in Mars, in the HR department there, and she was getting her certification in Myers-Briggs. So Myers-Briggs is one of the many psychometric tools that are available on the market, and I'd heard of it. So I thought maybe this would be useful, not just to help our friend who's getting the certification in it, but maybe useful to understand why, having been together for many years, me and Anna were having a really hard time figuring out how to work together. We knew that we had complementary skills. We knew that we were a great team, but there was so much that was really difficult as soon as we started working together. So we said that we'd help our friend. And we had our little MBTI check done. And we realized there was absolutely no masters, just commanders. Both Anna and I, very much extroverts, needed to get our opinion across, needed we were energized by expressing how we felt, and both of us are like that. So immediately, as soon as we had this test and the results came back, we thought, okay, so if we're both in that space, how can we navigate that? So Carl Jung, he believed that humans experience the world using, you know, these kind of 4 different functions, and that is what MBTI is based on. And then following down from the extroverts, that really resonated with Anna and I. We're both very much in that space. And then everything else seemed really binary. You know, you're either sensing or intuitive, you're either thinking or feeling, you're either judging or perceiving. And that didn't kind of fly with me very well. And as someone that I'm sure many of us in the LGBTQ community enjoy that grey space, live our lives every day in that in-between, in that grey space, it didn't really fit for me, this binary of we're either this or that. So I liked the information that this tool was giving us, but I kind of felt like the tool was reinforcing that label, that we are those things, that if you're a feeling person, then you can't use your thinking. So it didn't really resonate with me, this MBTI. I kind of felt a bit boxed in. This is my cat, Albert. Albert is sitting there in a box. Anyone who knows cats, and I'm sure I'm speaking to the right audience here, what happens when you have a delivery and you've got a cardboard box left over, you've taken all the goodies out of it, and you put the box on the floor, you pick your cat up, you think, oh, it should be lovely for you, and you put your cat in the box. What happens? You can unmute yourself if you want to. Type it in the chat if you want to. Jump out. Absolutely, Tina. Yeah, the cat will jump out. Doesn't want anything to do with the box whatsoever. Same Albert, same cat, same kitchen, same box, same day, same me. Put the box down. I walk out. Where's Albert? In the box. In the box, quite happily, comfortably in the box, hanging out. So this is kind of, this analogy is how I feel about boxes. There's a power dynamic, I think. If you choose to be in that box, that label, and it fits for you and it gives you the right language and terminology, then why wouldn't you want to be in that box, in that label? That resonates with you. But if someone else puts you in that box, there's a different power dynamic of whose words, whose terminology, whose labels, whose understanding is that? So I kind of felt a bit of, we talked about resonance this morning, Matt, a bit of resistance to being in that box, in that label. So this understanding of the power dynamic, I went in search of something else and something different other than the MBTI offer. Again, there's loads of psychometric tools on the market, and I was working with an organization that is at the forefront of brain science, and they do lots of management and leadership training that focuses on what we know now about the brain. Their tool that they used was emergenetics, and this is the idea that you can measure separately thinking defaults and also behavioral defaults. And I thought that nuance of the two different measurements would be really useful for me and Anna to figure out. We can't be so similar that we're the same person, because I know that we're not, because we've been together for so long, and I know that we are different and we bring different things, but the way we behave is similar. So I wanted that nuance of like, okay, we're talking thinking go-tos and behavioral go-tos. What does that mean for us? So emergenetics, out of the 90s, out of America, is a psychometric tool that is based on the opinion that we are a product of both our genetics and our lived experiences. So that suited my in-betweeny, grey, non-binary approach to psychometric tools, that it's taking what we know of the brain and how elastic the brain is, and what our brain does and how it predicts based on past experience. But we also have the ability as humans who have lived experiences to change our brain. So I like this concept. So we had the tool done. We had the psychometric. Absolutely, Tina. Yeah, this idea that it's nature versus nurture. It's absolutely not. I think it is a mixture of nature and nurture, and how those two work together. Again, the more that we know about brain science, definitely in the past 10 to 15 years, we owe a lot to the studies that have been done with people who have brain trauma, post-traumatic stress, that life experiences change your brain. So we know that this is true. So these kind of labels didn't sit well with me. So this is the tool that we used. I'm going to invite you actually to get a pen and a piece of paper. And if you think, I was not prepped that I was going to have to do any work, sorry. A piece of paper and a pen or a pencil will be fine. I'm going to give you a really quick exercise. I'm going to stop sharing that. I'm going to give you a quick exercise. And in this exercise, I would like you to follow all the information that I give you, follow all the instructions that I give you. And I'm just looking for my notes so that I can read it properly. I'm going to ask you to keep up with me. I'm going to go quite fast. So I need you to keep up with me. And let me find it here. Here we go. With your pens and papers ready. Who is ready? Let me see. You poised. I'm not saying it's competitive, but you've got to keep up with me, okay? On your marks, get set, write down what I say. Go. 2, 7, 8, 1, 3, 23, 11, 19, 50. Name a colour, the first colour that comes to mind. 6, 7, 8, 2, 9, 45, 32, 1, 23. Name a piece of furniture, the first piece of furniture that comes into your mind. 7, 6, 8, 54, 21, 1, 65, 89, 5, 4. Draw a picture of a flying horse. You're absolutely allowed to turn your microphones on if you want people to hear the giggling that I can see going on. I'm going to ask you how that felt immediately. We've stopped. You can stop drawing your horse.
I wrote down the number in letters rather than the numeral, so it took a bit longer.
I was going to say, were you able to keep up though, Scott?
No.
No. Davinia?
I had to finish drawing my horse. I couldn't leave it undone.
Okay,
but
very
I'm
good.
I more or less got the numbers down. Panicking, my heart's going 10 to the dozen, but I think
do you know, yeah, there's a little bit of stress in there, so you have to keep up with me. It's a little bit competitive. So, I'm sinking. So I would like to know, because Jamie has said that they've nailed the drawing the horse, then Jamie, you know we've all got to see the horse when it comes round to it. How many of you, let me share the screen, how many of you had red chair and your horse that looked like a Pegasus? Oh, James says no. Oh. Yeah, Mel says yeah.
Had a chair.
The chair, yeah.
Chair and something that looked like a hippo, flying hippo.
Flying.
It's a blue chair.
Yeah. So I was going to say either red or blue, or a chair or table. That's my mind readery ability, and I predict that a lot of the horses look a little bit like an outline of a horse, only some wings on it. Anyone want to share? Yeah. So James says, yeah. Anybody want to share their picture of a? Look, there you go. There's wings there. I see that. Oh, there's wings there. There's wings there. They look pretty similar to my horse, don't they? Anyone not have an outline of a horse and some wings on it?
Depends how you kind of look at my drawing. It's supposed to look like that, but I don't think it does.
Well, we're aiming for that.
Yeah, I was aiming for that.
And most of us aim for the outline of the horse and the wings on, because that's the easiest way that our brain can understand flying horse. Well, I understand horse, but how can I show flying? We bung wings on. It's a fast cut from our brain. The same with either red or blue, or chair or table. They're really well used shortcuts in our head. So our brain has neural pathways that we lay down, and we have habits that are formed because we've laid down these connectivity bits in our brain. These neural pathways are go-tos for us. So rather than me being able to actually read your mind, it's most likely most of us will write down these colors and these furnitures and draw the horse like this, because we have well-trodden pathways in our brain. It's easy to get to. Our brain's a predictor until we make it try and change. This is the next exercise. Next piece of paper. What I'm going to do is, actually, before I'm going to give you this exercise, let me show you the different types of horses, if you're given an extra minute or so. So if you have a little look at these horses, you'll see that a few of them have wings on, but then as soon as you give a little bit more time, I think this is like 2 minutes, we start to be a bit more creative. My favorite is right at the bottom, that tiny one, the horse eating a mushroom. And that is creatively the horse is flying, which I think is ace. The wing walker horse, that's imaginative. The horse in the first class of the plane, the paragliding, the helicopter horse, the cannon horse. All these are really creative ways of demonstrating horse flying. In the 30 seconds I gave you and the fast speed of the numbers, we go to the easiest representation of a flying horse. So there's kind of our go-to ways of getting information. So the next thing I want you to do is, on the next piece of paper, I would like you to write down the following sentence. You don't have to go fast, you can write your regular speed. The sentence that I'm going to give you has a few rules around it. You're not allowed to cross any T's or dot any I's, okay? So you're not allowed to cross any T's or dot any I's. The sentence that I want to give you, and it's lines. So I bet you don't know because none of you were naughty at school, but you have to write it once, twice, 3, 4, 5, until I tell you to stop. You've got a minute. So you need to continue to write this sentence over and over without crossing I's and without crossing T's and dotting I's. The sentence is, 10 times I've told you to stop doing that. 10 times I've told you to stop doing that. Keep on going. 15 seconds left. Okay, put your pens down, put your pens down. This is so funny with no sound, all I can see from the people who've got their cameras on. How did that feel? Type in the chat if you want to, or unmute yourself and let me know. How did that feel?
I used to write a lot of lines in school. And,
Robbie, did you?
And I developed a bit of a way of doing it where I'd write the first line and then I'd go down with each letter down the page to save a lot of time.
Okay.
So it took me a bit of time though to not cross the I's and dot the T's. But once I did it the first time, it was all right for the rest.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just told myself I was writing 10 lines. I've lulled you to slop doing that. But I still ended up dotting the I's though, so it didn't work as a strategy.
So we got in the chat that it was slow, kept on crossing my T's, hard. Yes, you all must be really good at school. It slows you down, and the quicker you go, the more mistakes you make. Got it wrong at first, and it was okay. You concentrated intensely. Anyone else was able to minimize the mistakes by really, really concentrating? Yeah, okay, really good. Anybody do it without any issue, any mistake? Yeah, absolutely. Great. So what, in terms of feelings, did that feel like? What did that feel like? Give us some words in the chat. Annoying, annoying. Yeah, I'm here to please. Frustrating.
It feels like you're restricted in some way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that idea of stopping yourself doing something natural. Yeah, awkward, yeah. So when we ask others how this feels from a emergenetics point of view, these are the types of words that come up. Uncomfortable, strange, weird, hard. Some people like it, it's exciting because it gets you to really focus and concentrate. The overwhelming kind of sense of awkwardness and frustration comes through. And this is what emergenetics calls scratchy. We call all of this feeling scratchy because it's annoying, it's frustrating, it's hard, you have to uber concentrate. And that's what our brain's doing when we're learning something out of our norm, out of our defaults, out of our regular. And I must admit, for the first 2 years of running the business with Anna, I was feeling scratchy a lot of the time. I was feeling really annoyed and frustrated because it seemed like everything needed more concentration, more kind of focus. And that was because I was acting outside of my thinking preferences and my behavioral preferences. Specifically with Anna, who I knew very well but hadn't worked with. She's a journalist by trade, used to working in a press office with people swearing and standing up and shouting. No, I did not like that. I did not thrive in that environment. I worked in the third sector and in the educational sector, and we would ask how people were, and we would negotiate to to understand what we were going to do. There was no standing up, shouting and swearing. I felt scratchy loads of times in that first 2 years with Anna. So understanding that emergenetics had this concept of when you're acting outside of your preference, you can do it. You can you can not cross the T's and not dot the I's, but it takes effort. It might feel annoying, awkward and scratchy. You can do it, but it might feel, you might feel that it's annoying. So this really quickly, I want to give you an overview of the tool that I then subsequently went on to use to help me understand my default ways of thinking, and that I can think outside of these ways, but it might feel scratchy for me. It might feel annoying, it might feel hard at first, but the more you do it, the less scratchy it feels and the easier it becomes. The same is true for behaviors. So the model that we use, emergenetics, has 4 defaults in thinking, very similar to the other tools that I mentioned. The metaphor is set out, so inside the pie chart are the thinking attributes that we all have. we're all able to understand the world with the what question. What is the evidence? What's the data? This analytical way of thinking. Some people have a preference in that. And some people go to that. That's the first thing they think. What information, what data do I need to collect to understand the situation? Structural, that is, when are we going to do it? How are we going to plan? The organized brain. Some of us have a lot of that in terms of preference. We all have the ability to do it, but we might not get energy from it. Then we have social, that's relational thinking, being intuitive, understanding with your spidey senses that someone's in a bad mood, so maybe they might have something going on that might have an impact on the team. Who is the best person for this job? Who's not the best person for this job? They're the types of questions that social and relational thinkers might go to as defaults. We can all do it, but it might not be our go-to. And finally is conceptual. Big picture, creative, great ideas, visionary, gets excited by talking about loads of ideas. We all are able to do that, but some of us have it as a go-to, as a preference. So these 4 things within our brain, that's the metaphor within that pie chart, show the makeup for us, for our thinking preferences and attributes. On the outside of the tool, there's the purple arrows, and these purple arrows talk about behaviors. So we all have these behaviors. We're all able to be expressive. Note, these are on a horizontal line. You aren't an expressive individual or person, it's behaviors. And we all have the ability to flex up and down the horizontal line. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no high, there's no low. We are all expressive, but the way we show our outward feelings about the world, our emotions about the world and to others varies. That really spoke to me because as 2 extroverts running a business, I know we're different. Then we've got assertiveness, the style, but also the pace, the speed, the energy by which you advance your thoughts and what you want to happen. I didn't necessarily have the same assertiveness as Anna, and I definitely felt that made me feel scratchy. Flexibility, finally, is our willingness to accommodate other people. So it's how we change or how we accept other people's changing position. If something has deviated from the plan, it's how we accommodate that, how we deal with that. Flexibility, we are all flexible. Some people are more focused in their behavior on what was already agreed. Some people like the new shiny object, and we are all able to flex along this different spectrum. What we use to flex is energy though. So coming back to this idea of feeling scratchy, when we're out of our default, our preference, we might be feeling slightly frustrated, annoyed or tired because we're having to use more energy rather than it giving us energy because we're in our default position. So that's the kind of bare bones of the model. To reinforce the 3 behaviors are not hierarchical, the behaviors are talked about on a percentile. So imagine 100 people standing in a row. The first third, 0 to 33, will have a small amount of energy for this behavior. Second third in between, it will depend on the situation for them, whether they will flex to the first or to the third. And finally, the third is 66 to 100. They will have a big amount of energy for this behavior. We'll see that on these different spectrums. So there's 3 of them. And this was really useful for me and Anna to know. So this is the expressiveness. This isn't extrovert as in a person. This is how you express. And that can change, but we have our defaults, our preferences. What I found out was Anna, she was around there. So talkative, gregarious, third, volume, lots of words, lots of hand gestures, facial gestures. She was pretty much on that 60, 68, 70%. Then the tool told me I was slightly further in the third. I might have more words, more hand gestures, more facial expressions. I might have an allocation of 25,000 words a day, and by gosh, I'm going to use the 25,000 words. For both of us to be in this third expressiveness category made us realize instantly that we had to talk out. We both wanted to talk. We both had our default position of, I have an emotion about something and I can't sit on it. I have to show it. I have to talk through it. I have to talk through the idea of how I'm feeling about something. Just that knowledge was really useful because it meant that, I mean, we didn't quite have a talking stick, but it meant that we had to acknowledge we need our time to express. We need this time to express. So whatever we're doing in work, meetings and face-to-face and having a really good kind of debrief about what we're doing is essential to us because that's where we get our energy. It might be different for other people. And again, if you think you might be on a different part of this scale, how can you work with people who might have different energies? That first third, someone will be expressing, but they might express once. So if they're in a team with Anna and I, and they express how they're feeling once quietly with excellent, succinct words, and they think in order to speak, we might not be giving them enough time for us to hear them because we're too busy talking. So that kind of information was really useful to me because this is about behavior. It's not about thinking preferences. It's about our default behaviors that we do without thinking. Then we looked at assertiveness, and on the scale of assertiveness, Anna again was up here in this driving third section. This is the style and pace of which you advance your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Culturally, what we know about assertiveness is someone is directive in this space. I want this to happen. I'm pushing for this to happen. What are the boundaries so I can get over those boundaries because I want the thing to happen. I want it to happen now. We've got a plan. Let's go. Peacekeeping behavior will still be seen as assertive because people will, in this area, be asking for consensus. They'll be figuring out what other people think in order to influence the way forward, to be able to influence and advance what they want to happen. The style and pace at first third will be subtly different to third style. This was another kind of light bulb moment. My profile came back and I was dead in the center. And for me, asserting what I want to happen in my feelings and beliefs is directly proportional and relatable to my values. It depends. It depends on if someone's like walked over a value of mine, like, oh, politeness is one of them. Costs nothing, people. If someone isn't polite to me, I will be moving into that third assertiveness. They've trampled on my value. I don't like that. It's become much more important to me, so I will flex to third. If I want to advance what I think, but someone's already said it, I don't need to. I can sit back. I can flex into that third behavior of assertiveness. I don't need to assert. It's already been said. Again, this for me and Anna was really useful because the pace by which Anna wanted stuff done sometimes didn't make sense to me because it didn't seem like it was a priority sometimes. But the pace by which Anna was running with stuff seemed disproportionate to the importance of it. And that was directly related to our difference in our assertiveness behaviors. The speed by which she was going off and doing stuff and wanting to pull me along didn't fit right unless I thought it was important, unless it was a value that I thought was important to us or the business. And then finally, we've got our flexibility. Everybody is flexible. Everybody can accommodate the thoughts and actions of others. However, some people will welcome change and quite like to multitask, even though we can't multitask. The brain doesn't allow us, we can only concurrently task. We do not have a multi-processing brain. We can only do one thing at a time. So we pick something up and we have to put something else down. So even though third flexibility behavior, we might really enjoy and welcome change and multitasking, our brain really can't do it. When we looked at our flexibility behaviors, this was, I think, the most useful over the years for me to realize Anna and I's difference. Anna is firmly rooted in third flexibility. She is excellent at being focused and fixed on what we've decided, sticking to what we've agreed, sticking to a plan, getting things done because we decided and we're focused on that. That means sometimes it's a challenge because I'm up the other end. I am very happy and motivated and excited and energized by change. And so when I say, let's change something up, Anna was emotionally feeling sometimes distraught and sometimes annoyed because we'd already agreed on something. And there's me changing it. There's me doing something else. For Anna, she can flex, but she needs a reason why. Why are we changing from the plan? We're fixed and focused on what we decided. What are the reasons for the change? So for me, don't necessarily need reasons. Someone says it's a good idea. I'm off. Excellent. For Anna, why are we making these changes? So there's gifts and kind of drawbacks for all of us across these different behaviors. But for me and Anna to see ourselves on these behaviors, and we haven't even got to the thinking yet, it was really useful to see where we were aligned and where we were different and how that played out in our business. I'm not going to do the first exercise just because I want to spend a bit more time on the thinking rather than the behaviors. So I'm going to miss out due to time. I'm going to miss out. I was going to get you to do a little exercise of breakout rooms, and that was just to reinforce how each of the behaviors prefers to listen. I was going to give you a little exercise, but I'm going to give you one for the thinking rather, because we've only got an hour. So this idea of expressiveness, Anna and I very much up there in that. I find it hard to be quiet. If I'm feeling a feeling, you can see it on my face and you can see it in my wavy hands and my noddy dog head, because I am third expressive in my behavior. I can flex. I start to feel scratchy, but I can sit on my hands. I can be really mindful as to why I'm the one talking, but it takes effort. A lot of the people that I've worked with will be third, and listen intently. They'll be thinking in order to speak, whereas I'm always talking in order to figure out what I'm thinking. Understanding where we are on that scale can be really, really useful when it comes to teamwork. Same with assertiveness. I may interrupt and ask a question to get closer to the thing that I want. Third assertive, I might appear to be a bit more neutral and a bit more peacekeeper in how the style by which I'm trying to assert what I want to happen, rather than the pace and the demand of what I want to happen. And then finally, that flexibility, absolutely third, receptive to information, different ways, lots of different deadlines and changing workload. I want to deliver on the specific thing we decided. Both of those things, innovation and sticking to a plan, have value in business. But when we realized where we were, Anna and I, on the behaviors, the fact that we're similar in expressing, we knew from the Myers-Briggs tool, but we're still slightly different in terms of our energy. But that flexibility, how different we are there, made me realize I need to give more time and reasons to Anna when I made changes. I needed to give the clarity of the change and what that was rooted in, to give her enough time to emotionally be on board for the change. Same with her and her assertiveness. Sometimes she would be frustrated that I didn't stand up for something. Why are you not asserting? It didn't matter to me. It absolutely depended. And Tina, yes, doesn't it all depend on what you're talking about? For me, yeah. Because second, third, in the middle, it depends. And that's your default position. It depends on whether you're going to flex to third or flex to first third. So for me, in the middle there in assertiveness, it absolutely depended on what we were talking about. And that, I think, for Anna was quite difficult, because she didn't know when I was going to stand up and, in her eyes, assert yourself and be firm. And then other times I didn't do that. She didn't understand what that was based on. So this was, again, a really useful bit of learning. I'm just going to go on to the thinking attributes. And again, this was so useful for us. We mentioned analytical, this is clear thinking. Anyone that's done insights, it's a similar thing. Insights doesn't measure behaviors, which we've looked at. But insights is a similar color and tool to understand. Your go-to is data, numbers, research. Green, structural, practical, step by step. You might like a map, you might like a list, you like closure potentially. You might be really organized. That's structural thinking. Analytical and structural are convergent. you converge to an answer, the right research point, the right data point, the right time. Your brain, in terms of thinking preference, if you have a preference in these two or either one, is to hone in on the answer. On the other side, we've got social thinking, relational thinking. So you're intuitive about people, you work with and through other people. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're friendly, but it means that you can be empathetic and intuitive about others. This, coupled with conceptual, imaginative, visionary, big ideas, really energize you. These two on this side are divergent ways of thinking. Divergent is the opposite of convergent, which means you start with one thing and you go off and speak to people and you get more answers. You read more things, you get more ideas. You diverge in terms of diversity of your thinking. You come back with more answers. So you can see how they're kind of opposite, but the tool itself doesn't entrench the label of you're either this or you're either that. In the profiles, if you have more than 23% in your pie chart, it's a preference, it's a go-to. So looking at the model, anytime we see 23% of thinking preference, thinking attribute, that is a go-to. Really quickly, before I show you where we land on this, we've got abstract at the top and concrete at the bottom. They're other ways of thinking. Abstract, analytical and conceptual are thinking big picture. They're abstract in terms of their view will be from 25,000 feet. They are big strategic thinkers potentially. Then we've got social and structural. They're concrete, they're on the ground, they're with time and people, they're in the detail. So the way that it's laid out in the model adds another kind of nuance to what these types of thinking might look like to us and feel like when we're asking the questions. Blue, what is the information? Green, when can I get started? Red, who's going to be on the team? And yellow, conceptual, what if we did something totally different? We got our profiles back and I was very much structural in terms of plans and wanting to know what I was doing and having lists and being quite organized. That was a default, that was a preference for me. Our other preferences, Anna was conceptual and I had social. Social is actually my main preference as one of my thinking attributes. It's a preference of mine. So when we overlaid this, we saw that we had a really nice amount of concrete thinking from me, some abstract thinking from Anna, but we didn't have any preference as a team in analytical thinking whatsoever. A preference, it doesn't mean skill, but when we did the profiling, you can combine what we look like as a team. We had hardly any preference in analytical. That doesn't mean that we couldn't do it, but this information allowed us to realize when we're putting pitches together, when we're doing work for clients, we know it's not a go-to. We won't be looking at the data. Anna will be bringing these brilliant ideas, these visionary conceptual ideas, and I'll be pitching for the work of business development, and I'll be planning out how it is delivered. The analytical stuff we didn't go to first. So we lent into our strengths, which were conceptual big ideas, and our structural, and we made sure there was a list of things we had to tick when we were delivering work for people. On there were questions about data, numbers, research. It just wouldn't be our go-to. So we lent into the strength of the team, which was structural, and we made sure we always had a pro forma or a list in order to make us realize we need to put the stats and the numbers and the research in here. We might not be thinking about it, but the people that are reading this, say, a piece of work will need to have that. So that's what our epigenetics, this is my epigenetics profile. So you can see a big section of red there and some green, tiniest of slither of the blues and the yellows. So I have two preferences, social and structural. And then Anna's gifts, all that yellow proportion, one preference in thinking, which is, there's like 1 or 2% of profiles that have one preference. So as a team, we put this together, and that's our little team together, and we had a really nice distribution of divergent thinking, so conceptual and social. We had a good amount of structural, but we, again, really didn't have that much in terms of preference of analytical. As behaviors, as a team, we were out there on third expressive. We were really successful in pitching, really successful in making connections in work. Our assertiveness, again, there was on the second to third, and our flexibility, because we were opposed, sat firmly in the middle. I want to give you a really quick exercise to a Jamboard. I'm going to get this little link from the Jamboard, and I'm going to ask for 4 teams, please. I'm going to pop the link in the chat for you. What I'm going to ask you to do is to think about how you speak to people with different thinking preferences. So what are the things that you should be bearing in mind when you're speaking to people that like numbers, when you're speaking to people that like structure, when you're trying to influence people who are social or conceptual? What are the things that they might want to hear, or you might want to communicate to them based on their thinking preferences, their thinking defaults? So if I send this to everyone, here is the link to the Jamboard. The Jamboard will look like this. Hold on. That's me. So if you click on that link on the Jamboard, you should be able to get the link up, and it will look like this. If you haven't used Jamboards before, the menu is on the left-hand side, and you can either choose to write a little post-it note. You can choose to write a post-it note like this, your sticky note, and pop it in and drag it across, or you can just use the T for text and write in. Have I got some breakout rooms somewhere? Is someone doing that for me? I can do it. I do it. So room 1, if you could toggle to the top here, you can see the buttons. You can see my mouse on the screen. Can you? Someone give me a nod. Excellent. So room 1, have a look when your room number comes up. You will be using the blue analytical number 2. So you'll be on blue. If you're in room 1, you'll be looking at blue. Toggle across to green, and that will be room 2. So when you get zoomed into room 2, that is the green. Room 3 is red, so toggle all the way across. And finally, room 4 is the yellow conceptual box. I'm looking for ideas in how might you prefer to, or how might you want to speak to someone with this thinking preference as a default? What are the kind of things that they will want to hear? I'm going to give you a very quick 4 minutes, and in your groups you'll have a 10-second countdown. So it'll be fast and quick and fast for you to do this 4-minute exercise. I am opening the rooms now. Good luck.
Hey Anna.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. I just put them into breakout rooms.
Yeah, fab. I don't know if you saw, I had them ready. I'd messaged you, but
Oh, so I'm talking, so I can't read the chat.
yeah. No, oh yeah. So I can, when you're ready, I'm happy to kind of like send them a message and close them and bring them.
Oh, I already set. I did them and set them up for autos close after 4 minutes with a 10-second warning, so they can be pulled back in.
Fab.
Yeah. So they will have the timer counting down, then they'll have their 10 seconds to bring them back. Right. And then we should be done.
Okay. Is there anything else you need?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. I will leave you to it then.
Excellent, excellent. It never seems long enough, does it? And 4 minutes was so small amount of time. So thanks for being so accommodating. I could see you were writing stuff on your Jamboards. See if everyone is back here. Okay. We're 4 minutes to, so I can see what you've popped on the Jamboard. If you want to toggle across to the other boards, you can see what other people wrote. My takeaways from the different ways of thinking. If you're analytical, absolutely give the key facts, get to the point. They don't necessarily want details, but they might, so ask them. Structural, give people an agenda. We're starting, we're finishing, we might have a break. Give them all the facts in an organized fashion. We might like a bullet point. Social, I saw that small talk. Small talk is so valuable for social thinkers sometimes because it's data points, but emotional data points about the people that they're with. So asking people how they are, figuring out, tell me a story, give me, put a person to it for me to understand, can really resonate with people who are social thinkers. And conceptual, be excited about their ideas. I've learned this one from home. Be excited about the many ideas that come forward. Give space to explain the ideas. And one of our takeaways is we're all told this golden rule of treat people as we want to be treated. You know, do unto others as we would. I'll stop there. The platinum rule is treat people how they want to be treated. And this again is a theme, and we know this in our LGBT plus lives, that even when people have really good intent, if you don't think about the impact of your communication, you don't think about how it lands for someone because they're different, we haven't done the full amount of work. So this idea of treating people as they want to be treated, I think is a really great platinum rule that we can use across all our experiences, all our roles in work. And I definitely try really hard to do this with Anna. This year we're 19 years together, so I'm counting that as 20. And the epigenetics tool has really helped us understand why we're feeling scratchy about something. Why is she pissing me off? Why am I pissing her off? Usually because we're speaking at cross purposes. So if we talk about intent and we think about the impact and we draw those two things together, it can help us. If you know you're speaking to someone that is a conceptual thinker, don't tell them about the details, the deadlines and the way markers and KPIs of success. Be energized by their idea and give them space to be in that thinking preference. And that is pretty much all from me. There's some great books here which I'd recommend. Work That Works is a emergenetics one. Your Brain at Work, it's a really old book, but it's actually really, really good. Newer book, The Idiot Brain. Dean Burnett, he does the orating of it, and he's got a lovely Welsh accent, and he tells stories all the way through. So if you have a feeling that you are a social thinker, The Idiot Brain is full of great stories about how our brain works. Some other stories or other reading. I love a good LGBT list. The queer graphic history is awesome, really, really cool to read. None of the above, love that. And the transgender issue, again, if we're thinking about diversity as LGBTQ folks, we know about our diversities. We need to make sure that we're doing the stuff that we're asking our allies to do too, and learning a bit more about people who are different to us. So I will leave that there. There's a little discount if you're interested in profiles, and if you want to get in touch with me, my details are there. I'll make sure that the PDF is sent out to you, and I apologize if we didn't get time to do 2 breakout sessions, but I wanted to give you a bit of an overlay of how me and Anna use that tool to help us in business. Hopefully this has been useful and enjoyable, and you've got an idea of what the secret sauce might look like. The hint is it's different for all of us. And if you want to, if we've got time, we could do a favorite source checkout, 1-word favorite source checkout, just to see if you're still alive at the end of that. So if anyone wants to top my bread sauce as my favorite source, you're more than welcome to do that in the chat. I'm nosy. I like to see what people like as condiments. Lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Anna. That's yeah, really great second session to our program. Raising self-awareness and how we can kind of work with teams is such an important part of creating growth. We're not going to get alignment across our teams behind a growth vision if we don't know what works for people, how they communicate, what their preferences are. to really kind of communicate that vision and oil the wheels of working together.
We will get that all together.
There's
and
some
get that
great,
straight out. So we just
great sources. Oh, sorry, could someone? Yeah, there we go. There's some great sources going in the chat there, so feel free to share that. Other than that, we'll be following up with this session by email. Don't forget, we've got the next sessions coming up, so do make sure that those are in your diary. If you want to check those out, you can check the link that's just been posted in the chat. Make sure your diary's up to date, sign up to any other events going on. So with that, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much, Anna, for that fantastic and really insightful session and for sharing so much of your story. Yeah, it's really great to hear that presented in such a rich and engaging way with real examples rather than just as a model. So I really appreciated that. Thanks very much for spending your Monday morning with us, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you at the next event. Bye.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a lovely Monday.